Hey everyone, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of the Lifestyle Lifters Show. So, I recently put up a poll on my Instagram. For anyone who doesn't follow my Instagram, it's at Mac Lifestyle Fitness, MC Lifestyle Fitness. And the poll was I am recording a podcast this week. Which topic would you like to see covered? The first topic was a Q&A pertaining all things related to fat loss, whether it's calorie deficit, type of training, lifestyle, stress, sleep, anything at all. And the second one was cardio versus weights, which is better for fat loss? And cardio versus weights, which is better for fat loss, was the one that got the green light. So that is what I'm going to speak about today on this week's episode. So cardio and weights, if the goal is fat loss, which one is better? It's probably one of the most commonly asked questions that I get asked as a coach, because on one hand, you have the people who are saying that you don't need to do cardio at all, that you just need to lift weights and be in a calorie deficit, and you can and you will lose fat. On the other hand, you have the people who say that cardio is the best form of fat loss because it burns lots and lots of calories. It is going to jack up your heart rate, and it's a good way of just stripping off and melting body fat. Okay. What I'm going to do in this week's episode is I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive into, first of all, calories burned during a workout, calories burned after a workout, and then the benefits of doing both, along with the types of cardio you can do, the types of training you can do, and what I personally recommend if fat loss is the goal. All right, that sound good? So let us get going. First of all, let's speak about calories burned during a workout. Now, I got to a point where I used to become obsessed with this. Back in the day when I had a Garmin, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a fitness brand, and it was also there was a chest strap going with it. And with the chest strap, it would link up to your fitness watch. And for some reason, look, we question all of our beliefs except the ones that we deem to be true, and those we don't question at all. I just made a rule for myself that I need to burn 700 calories per workout in order for it to be effective. Now, 700 calories is a lot of calories to burn in a strength session. This wasn't even a cardio session. If I was doing running, you'd do that no bother. You'd probably just need to run for about an hour. But with a strength session, because your heart rate isn't typically elevated that high, what I used to do to get that 700 calorie goal burn would be during my rest periods, I might do some freaking cycling. I might do a bit of jogging on the treadmill, just anything at all to keep the blood flow going. I didn't realize at the time how silly and how stupid that was. But the point being that calories burned during a workout in a weight session, let's just say you're the average gym goer and you're spending 45 minutes. We'll just go with 45-minute gym session. Okay. That's probably only going to burn in the region of 200 calories, because you don't lift weights to burn calories. You lift weights to get freaking stronger. All right. And sure, your heart rate might elevate after doing a hard set of deadlifts, or, maybe you might be doing some leg work or some lunges, but typically you're going to be resting for 60, 90, 2 minutes, whatever it might be, before you go again, to allow your heart rate to decrease before you hit the hard set again. Okay. We do not lift weights to jack up our heart rate and burn calories. We lift weights to get stronger. Now, on the flip side, a cardio session, you do 45 minutes, the average gym goer again, and obviously your body weight, your body fat percentage, all of this is going to play a role in how many calories that you will actually burn in a single session. But let's just say again, you do a 45 minute steady state run on the treadmill or outside. That's probably going to burn for the average person maybe 600 calories, 500 to 600 calories. So if we're to look at calories burned during a workout, cardio is the big winner there. I don't think anyone can argue with that. Cardio is going to burn much more calories than lifting weights during a workout. Now, what about after a workout? So imagine that I'm driving from Tuam to Galway. It's going to take me about 30 minutes. Now, by the time I arrive in Galway, the car engine, and I turn the car off, it's not going to take too long to cool down. On the flip side, imagine I was driving from Dublin to Galway, Dublin to Connemara, we'll say. Let's make the journey that bit longer. And it's taken me 3.5 hours it might. Even though you knock the car off immediately once you arrive in Dublin, it's not going to cool down straight away. It's going to take a bit more time. And that's an analogy that I'll use for the afterburn. Cardio will burn lots of calories during a workout. And most of that calorie burn occurs while you're just running. Whereas weights, the real benefit occurs after your workout. After you work out and after you lift weights, you can be burning calories for up to 36 hours after that single weight session. On top of this, the more muscle mass that you have, the long-term calorie burn, the more muscle mass that you have, the more calories you burn at rest. And 1 pound of muscle burns on average 9 to 10 calories. So therefore, lifting weights, while it will not give you that short-term calorie burn during a workout, long-term, you're going to be burning much, much more calories compared to just doing cardio. Because what does cardio do? Cardio, as I said, it's great for your heart, it's great for your longevity. It's going to help you burn calories. Lifting weights, on the other hand, lifting weights, it's going to help you build muscle. And because muscle is more metabolically active than fat, meaning the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn while resting. Lifting weights is one of the most effective ways for long-term fat loss results. Okay, so 9 to 10 calories per pound, that is what you will burn while lifting weights. That's a considerable amount. Now, per pound of fat, if you have 1 pound of fat, that's roughly going to burn, on average, 2 calories per pound. So you can see the difference there. And then you might be wondering, okay, this person, they look so fit. How do they look so fit, yet it seems like they can eat anything and get away with it? Some people, they just have a fast metabolism, but for other people, they just have a lot of freaking muscle. And that's from putting the reps in, lifting the weights, doing the work over time, consistently. Okay, so one of the most beneficial and effective ways to increase your metabolism is to build more muscle. As the more muscle you have, as I already said, the more calories you will burn while resting. So, as we've already discussed, short term during the workout, cardio will burn more calories. But after the workout, that's where the real benefits of lifting weights come in. Okay, that's where the long-term calorie gain comes in. That's how you can effectively get to a point where you're able to eat more food without getting fat, because you've got more muscle, which means it's obviously requires more calories to maintain than fat. Okay, so honestly, it's one of the most effective ways to just increase your metabolism, obviously for your health, for your longevity, building muscle. Now, does that mean then, going back to our original question, which is better for fat loss? So short term during a workout, I think we all can agree here, cardio will burn more calories. Long-term gain though, if you just keep doing cardio in the absence of strength training, what's going to happen? You're gonna have that skinny fat physique, which I used to have. I've seen countless people in the gym and they just run on the treadmill, running the treadmill, running the treadmill. But if body composition is their goal and they want to look leaner, they do not change inside 12 months, inside 24 months, inside 3 years. It's because they're just doing cardio in the absence of strength training. Now, does that mean that you shouldn't do cardio? Absolutely not. That's what I want to go on to now. I'm a big believer in doing both. Okay, weights is obviously, as we know, it's great for building muscle. It's great for, like, what are some of the benefits of lifting weights? There's so many to list. You're going to increase your strength. You're going to get stronger. I had a client come to me and he would have been a typical GEA player. All right, train 2 days during the week, match at the weekend, and might have done the odd class as part of a group, but he'd never really done true strength training. Okay, started out with a 3-rep max in the deadlift, 75 kilos. Inside 12 months, from just nothing crazy at all, just properly structured strength training, his 3RM went up from 75 to 170 kilos. Did he get stronger? Absolutely. Was there anything magical about it? Eating more of the right foods, lifting weights properly, and giving his body just enough chance to recover. So lifting weights is going to obviously increase your strength. You're going to strengthen your bones. It's going to increase your confidence. I can say from a personal standpoint, having had no confidence at all to step up in front of a class when I previously worked as a teacher, to just having a bit of a presence about you and being sure and certain of yourself. Martin, another client of mine, was the same. Didn't have a whole lot of confidence in himself, in his appearance, in how he looked. Started lifting weights. Inside 12 weeks, got some definition, got a six pack. All of a sudden now, he was the guy going to the lake, going for the Sunday swim and taking his top off, and people looking at him. And dating was the big area that he lacked confidence in until he saw the changes that he could make in himself. He started taking care of himself. And when he started physically looking better, mentally, he started feeling better, and he started feeling more confident, which gave him the confidence to then ask a girl out who he had been eyeing up for quite some time. And now they're sharing an apartment together and living together in Dublin. So lifting weights, it's going to increase your confidence. It's going to increase your metabolism. You're going to get to eat more food without getting fat, as I was saying. A simple and effective way to put it. Ross, one of my clients, started out at about 82 odd kilos and he was consuming 2,200 calories a day. His goal was to lose fat. So, like the most effective way to lose fat, we put him in a calorie deficit. Ross was in a calorie deficit until he lost roughly 12 kilos altogether. Got from 82 to 70 over probably a 16-week period. Now, his calories did decrease in order for us to do that. But on the flip side, Ross's goal now is to build some lean muscle. Ross has only gained a couple of kilos, but now he's maintaining his ideal body weight, which is roughly at the moment 76 kilos. He's sitting at 76 kilos, maintaining at 3,400 calories a day. So when you think about it, he was at 2,200 calories at 82 kilos. Now he's eating 3,400 calories a day at 76 kilos. How did we do that? Started building more muscle. Because again, as I said, muscle expends more energy than fat. It requires more calories to maintain. And Ross is able to do that by slowly and incrementally lifting weights. We've been working together now for a while. For some time, he's doing a lean gaining phase at the moment, and he's having 3,400 calories without gaining any weight. Okay, so it does and it will increase your metabolism if done effectively. And finally, obviously, some of the benefits of lifting weights. Muscle loss can happen from when we kind of hit our 30s. Okay, and we don't want any, age-related risks down the line. So it's just a good idea. It's good for your health. It's good for your bones, good for your longevity to lift weights. What are the different types of weightlifting? So many to talk about. So you have powerlifting. Powerlifting is effectively, they compete in the big three, the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. What is the max amount of weight you can lift for one single rep on the squat, on the bench, on the deadlift? Okay, so they lift heavy weights. Powerlifters are very, very strong. Then you've got bodybuilding. One of my clients, Brendan, he would have been a good example of someone who was obsessed with bodybuilding training. Monday was chest day, Tuesday was back, Wednesday was shoulder, Thursday is legs, and Friday is arms. Which, by the way, when you think of that bodybuilding bro split, it is absolutely ridiculous. Your legs, your biggest body part, you're only training them once a week, and then your upper body, you're training that 4 times a week. It's flawed. It's not an effective training program. Okay, so you've got bodybuilding. That's another side of training. Then you have CrossFit. So I once did a CrossFit workout. I actually did it 2 or 3 times. It's called the Murph. For anyone who doesn't know what the Murph was, the workout is you do a 1 mile run, followed by 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and you finish with a 1 mile run. Okay. Obviously, you don't do all the pull-ups consecutively. So what I did was the 1 mile run, 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 squats, and you repeat that for 20 rounds, finish with the 1 mile run. So CrossFit, it's kind of like a combination of lifting weights and cardio. Some of it I like the intensity, I don't like other elements too, but that's another style of weightlifting. And then you have power building. Power building is probably one of my more preferred styles. Power building combines all three of the above. So you're lifting heavy weights, which I typically like to do at the start. Like with Kieran there with the deadlift, went from 75 to 170. Typically, Kieran would have deadlifted probably once, sometimes twice a week. And it usually already would have been at the start in that 3 to 5 rep range. So he was lifting heavy. But then he wanted to pack on a bit of muscle. That's where we started doing some bodybuilding work. Okay, just getting the reps in. 8 to 12, at 3 second lowering, failing at a rep, and doing 3 sets. 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. Good old bodybuilding training. It is effective and it does work, particularly for building muscle. All right. But then he also wanted to be aesthetically to be fit, to be able to run a 5K or 10K. So we started doing some cardio as well. And the proper name for this type of training, it's my own side, it's hybrid training. It's kind of like being a master and a jack of all trades, but a master in none. You're never going to be the strongest guy in the gym or the best power lifter in the world by doing hybrid training. You're not going to be the most jacked bodybuilder by doing hybrid training. You're not going to be the best CrossFitter by simply doing hybrid training. But what hybrid training allows you to do is it allows you to feel strong by lifting heavy weights, to look good by doing some bodybuilding pump work, and to have a good cardiovascular base so that you can run a 5K, you can run a 10K, and most effectively, so you're not out of breath going up a flight of stairs and you're able to carry yourself. There's a difference between looking fit and being fit, which is why I always gear towards hybrid training. It's the style of training I personally do and that I do most commonly with my clients. Okay, the type of cardio that we do, it does vary. It might be the assault bike. It could be 10 seconds hard, 20 seconds off. You do that for 8 rounds and repeat that for 3 times. It could be 15 seconds sprinting on the treadmill, 45-second rest. It could be, there's a lot of different ways, but essentially you're combining cardio and weights all in the one session. Now that we spoke about the benefits of lifting weights, the type of weight training that you can do, let's speak about cardio. And your heart is a muscle. And if you want bigger biceps, you obviously got to train your biceps. Your heart is the same. And it will expand and it will grow in terms of how much oxygen you can actually get pumping when you train it more, when you actually train specifically for cardio. And a recent study in 2022 will blow your mind. In terms of longevity, doing cardio alone reduce all-cause mortality by 20%. So your risk of death by any cause reduced by 20% when you had a decent cardiovascular base. However, when you combine cardio with lifting weights, your risk of all-cause mortality went decreased by 40%. So combining weights and adding weights and adding cardio, it's literally adding years onto your life. So when people say which is better for fat loss, look, you don't need to do cardio to lose fat. You just need to be in a calorie deficit. But if you care about your health and your longevity, and you're in this for the long game, it shouldn't be a case of either or, cardio or lifting weights. Why not do both? Combine both for the absolute best results. What are the different types of cardio? So you have the list cardio, which is the typical bodybuilding cardio. I used to be of the opinion that that's not cardio, where people say that their cardio session was walking for 45 to 60 minutes on the treadmill, 3% incline at a pace of maybe 5 to 6 kilometers an hour. Why was I wrong? So list cardio was the first one. Low intensity, steady state. That's what LIST stands for. And the benefit of LIST is that it's not very taxing on the body. You're not going to be absolutely drained after doing a 45-minute walk at a steady pace. You'll be able to do that 7 days a week once you build it up. Particularly if you're listening to this show because you're already into you already have a good and a decent base of fitness. Okay, that is less cardio. I used to be of the opinion that is not cardio. I was wrong. Okay, less cardio. So roughly you want your heart rate at about 120 beats per minute and just sustain that for 30 to 60 minutes. You might do that 3 or 4 times a week. Then we have steady state cardio. So one of my clients, Seamus, he's a big fan of doing a steady state cardio. Every week he wants to get out for his 5K run or his 6 or 7K run, and he'll run for about 30 minutes. Okay. So steady state cardio is where you are running at a conversational pace. That's important. Conversational pace for roughly 30 to 60 minutes. You have intervals then. I'm a big fan of interval training, as are a lot of my clients. With interval training, the idea is that you're running at a faster pace, but then you're resting for intervals in between. So what it might look like is in a treadmill workout, you could do 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. With the 30 seconds on, it could be at a pace, at a pretty decent pace, above a jog. And by the time you hop off, you're not at conversational pace now. You're stepping it up a gear. So your heart rate's probably going to be around about 75% of your max. I sometimes do that for 45 minutes, where what I'll do is I could do 15 sets of 30-30, then I might do another 15 sets of 35 seconds on, 25 seconds off, and then something like 15 sets of 40 seconds on and 20 seconds off. Or I could do the reverse, where I might start out at 40-20, and then I could back down to 30-30. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll do 15 sets of 15 seconds at an incline sprinting and 45 seconds rest, which will lead me on to another side of training, which is more HIIT based. And true HIIT training stands for high intensity interval training. Now, when people think about HIIT, they'll think of 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off of burpees, box jumps, and jumping jacks. That is not HIIT training, because you cannot maintain a high intense effort for 45 seconds. True HIIT training is where you're going max out, balls out for maybe up to 15 seconds, I would say max, and then having a 1-4, 1-5, 1-6, as much as a 1-10 rest to recovery ratio. So what a 1-4 recovery ratio would be is if you run for 10 seconds, you rest for 40 seconds. What a 1-10 recovery ratio would be is you run for 10 seconds and you rest for 100 seconds. Depending on the type of training that you do, that's going to determine the amount of rest that you get. If you're an elite level sprinter, you're going to need, it could be a 1-40 work to rest ratio if you want to really maintain that high output. But for your average gym goer listening to this, if you're thinking about doing HIIT, I'd probably recommend a 1-5. 1-5 to 1-6 work to rest ratio. 1-5 is probably the easiest because you can do 10 seconds hard, 50 seconds off. Now, you might say 10 seconds hard, that doesn't sound like a lot. But if you're actually really trying and pushing yourself, you only need about 15 minutes of that HIIT training to get a real benefits from it. That's the benefit of HIIT over LISS. Whereas LISS, it's not as taxing on the body. You have to do LISS training, low intensity, steady state for longer, up to 60 minutes. With HIIT training done properly, you can get the real maximum benefits inside 10 to 15 minutes. So an example of HIIT training could be you have an assault bike, a great tool for HIIT training. You do 10 seconds hard and 50 seconds rest. Repeat that 15 times and you are good to go. Because when you're going hard for 10 seconds, max out. For the other 50 seconds, then you're just going at a very low intensity, steady recovery pace. Okay? But then when you repeat that, you're looking for effort. HIIT training is all about effort. Another example will be, as I mentioned there, on the treadmill. I love the self-sufficient treadmill for this. This is what I use once a week. There's a self-sufficient treadmill in the gym that I run, meaning that you don't set the pace of the treadmill. You don't just settle at 20 kilometers or 18 or 15 kilometers an hour. You determine the pace by how hard you run. And the harder you run, naturally, the faster the pace the treadmill runs. So what I like to use with the self-sufficient treadmill is I might go 10 seconds hard, max out, and a 50-second walk. Repeat that for 10 or 15 minutes. And that's my HIIT training. Okay. So lots of different types of cardio there, from list to steady state running to interval based to HIIT training. The final one then being circuits. And circuit training. So when I worked in a gym in person, this was the predominant style of training that I was led to believe that, was the most effective. And I don't really agree with traditional circuit training, circuit classes out there. Some are great, and I'm not going to paint all of them with the same picture. But for others, maybe the likes of F45 or these kind of boot camps, it's like you have someone in their 20s, someone in their 30s, and someone in their 40s for the most part. And again, I'm not speaking in absolutes, but just from what I've observed, doing the exact same workout. Now, you tell me a guy in his 20s, he should have, and he probably does have, different needs and different areas to prioritize than a guy in his 40s or 50s. Not to mention different fitness levels too. So circuit training, your traditional circuit training where, people go to these boot camp classes, it's like you move around from station to station and each station has a different exercise. Now, I think circuits done right are very, very effective and can be very effective. It's what I like to call muscle building cardio. And it's where effectively you combine lifting weights with a cardiovascular benefit. So it could be something like you do a complex. And a complex is basically where you repeat a series of exercises, one onto the next without rest. So it could be something like we'll start with a barbell or with the dumbbell as well. You do a dumbbell front squat. You then go from, we'll say, 6 dumbbell front squats. You then do 6 overhead press. Still holding the dumbbells, you then do 6 bent over rows. Then from there, you go 6 RDLs, Romanian deadlifts. And then from there, you do 6 deadlifts, 6 dumbbell deadlifts. And then you might finish off with a 60-second skipping or 90-second, steady state run on the treadmill. And you repeat that for 6 rounds. That is a beastly circuit right there for you. If you want to try that out, one I've done before in the past. You can also do with a barbell. So how it goes with the barbell is you do 6 overhead press. So you start in the barbell, put the barbell in the rack position as if you were doing a squat at the same height you're doing a squat. So shoulder height, barbells on the rack, shoulder height. Start out with overhead press. You might do 6 reps. Then you go straight into 6 front squats. From there, you go straight into 6 bent over rows. From there, you go straight into 6 barbell RDLs, and then you finish with 6 barbell deadlifts. You then do a 3-minute cardio run, or you can do it on the bike, or you can do it on the cross trainer, and you repeat that 6 times. Okay, so roughly, that workout will take you probably 35 to 45 minutes. And it's a good example of a kind of a muscle building circuit in cardio, because you're getting the benefits of lifting weights and you're also getting the benefits of cardio all in one. That can be a nice little circuit / cardio session you could try out in your training. All right. Now, how much cardio and how much weights then should you be doing? So with weights, there's no threshold. But to get the full benefits of lifting weights, I feel 2 is generally enough to maintain. Again, depending on where you are, but if you're listening to this, you're already lifting weights. So if you want to maintain your current body composition, you can do that with probably as little as 2 weight sessions per week, 2 full body weight sessions, and that's assuming that your nutrition is on point. But if you want optimal growth, you really want to be pushing for, look, I'd say 3 at a baseline minimum, but 4 is where 4+ is where the real benefits would be. With cardio, how much cardio do you need to do? So again, depending on the goal. But if you want to just generally improve your overall aerobic fitness, you've got aerobic and anaerobic fitness. So aerobic cardio, that is cardio with oxygen. So think about your steady state run where you're able to run, but you're running at a conversational pace. Now, the recommended amount of zone 2 cardio, which I'm sure you hear a lot of people speak about, is 150 to 180 minutes per week. Now, that's 2.5 to 3 hours, which if you're listening to this, you're probably a busy worker and you might only be able to dedicate 5 or 6 hours per week maximum to your training. So that might not always be feasible, but it can be something you can work towards. Then with anaerobic cardio, that's cardio done without oxygen. That's done at a higher pace, a higher intensity. And while you don't need to do anaerobic cardio or cardio in general to lose fat, remember what I said that your heart, it's like a muscle. And the more exposure you can give it, obviously the bigger it's going to grow. So what I would recommend is if you are doing cardio, once a week, do something that is fast and that's at a faster pace. And then for the rest of it, keep it at that zone 2. So an example of anaerobic cardio would be you got to find a way to work up to close to your max heart rate. And this type of training, it does suck. It's not easy. But an example would be you do 800-meter or 1 kilometer runs for time, or an 800-meter run for time, where you're having a sustained effort of running or of whatever your cardio equipment is for 2 to 6 minutes. It needs to be roughly 2 to 6 minutes of sustained effort. So whatever that might be for you, it could just be a case that you're going to run as far as you can in 4 minutes. And then you're going to repeat that for 4 to 8 sets. Okay, that could simply be it. That's your anaerobic cardio covered. You just need to do that. You don't need to, but it can be beneficial to do that style of training once a week, because that's going to really train your heart and work more towards your VO2 max, the max amount of oxygen that you can intake. Then with your aerobic, that'll be your steady state. That's your cycle, that's your run, that is your cross trainer, and that's going to be obviously a bit longer, but at a lower pace. But with cardio, I like to combine both. So I like to combine the zone 2 with the anaerobic. Now, just to recap then, so we covered quite a bit here. Cardio versus weights for fat loss, which is better? First of all, you don't need to do cardio to lose fat. In order to lose fat, you just need to be in a calorie deficit. You can be in a calorie deficit by eating less food, by exercising more, or doing a combination of both. However, cardio, just because you don't need to do it to lose fat, it's got so many benefits, which I spoke about there. Remember, cardio plus weights combined decrease your risk of all-cause mortality by 40%. All right, the juice is worth the squeeze. We then spoke about the calories burned during a session. Cardio will burn more calories short-term in that particular workout. But then we speak about the long-term calorie burn, and that's where the real benefit of strength training comes in. As we said, muscle is more metabolically active than fat, so the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn while resting. And 1 pound of muscle will burn roughly an average 9 to 10 calories per pound. So that is why having more muscle is going to allow you to effectively eat more food without necessarily getting fat, provided you balance it out properly. So long-term calorie burn, that's where the benefit of, that's where weight training is better. But then it shouldn't be a case, just to wrap it up, if you are a lifestyle lifter, that it's either weights or cardio. It's not an either or. It should be weights and cardio. All right. And how we combine weights and cardio, my preferred style of training is hybrid training. It's where you're doing a combination of strength work, heavy lifting, you're doing some bodybuilding pump work, and you are doing some cardio work. And for all the listeners of this show, if you've gotten this far and you are following my page at Mac Lifestyle Fitness, so MC Lifestyle Fitness on Instagram, I've got a giveaway for you. In the show notes, I will post a free 3-day total body training program, which is an example of hybrid training. So if you're someone, you want to be able to lift heavy and hold your own in the gym, you want to look good with your top off and have a nice aesthetic look, but you also don't want to be out of breath going up a flight of stairs, and you want to be able to run a 5 or a 10K, then I'll post a link to that total body training program in the show notes. Also, if you would like this all written out, I've done a blog post on cardio versus weights, which is better for fat loss. So if you want to listen to the podcast and then you want to actually really consolidate all of this information, you find you might learn better by reading, I'll post a link to the blog post that I wrote on this in the show notes also. And then finally, if you're listening on Spotify or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I would really appreciate if you just subscribed and share the show. I don't run ads towards the show. It's just listeners like you that's helping it grow. And while this show, it's not monetary value, that fee, it's just more so a case that if you got value from this, that you just pay it back in some way. Okay. You're dedicating your hard-earned time and your attention to listen this far with me. And for that, I truly appreciate it. And hopefully you got the value, you got the return off your time. Because time is your most valuable asset. And if you did get value from this, the only thing I'd ask is you please follow the show and share with someone else who might benefit from it. That's the only way the show will grow. And it's from listeners like you helping me do that. So that's something I'm truly grateful for. And that is all for this week's episode of the Lifestyle Lifter Show. So hope you found this episode beneficial. And if you did, looking forward to hearing you and hearing your thoughts before next week's episode. Chat to you guys soon.